is what it means to be brave. This is what it means to be brave.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Coming to you live from beautiful Bristol, Tennessee, where it's always sunny.
Yeah,
it's almost like it's always sunny in Philadelphia, but it's not.
Never got into that show.
It's not sunny in Philadelphia.
No.
I've been there.
I've only been there like twice
Yeah,
my whole life.
Yeah. It is not sunny. I think that's why they called it that. I loved that show.
Did you? I never got into it.
I did. It was so over the top. I think that's what that's why I watched it.
I think I need to because it was one of those things. I watch the clips. I'm a big fan of clips on YouTube.
Yeah.
And so I'll go and just I'll watch the shorts and the best of and all that. But then
Yeah.
you have so many when you're trying to do this stuff, and then you've got the entertainment side of it and all that juggling everything.
And then you've got your normal work.
Yeah, and then you've got your day-to-day work, your 9 to 5. Yeah.
Family, the whole thing. Juggle. It's just how to juggle.
Yeah.
It's an exercise in juggling. Tonight, boy, have we got some fun things to discuss tonight.
Dude. Sometimes I feel like the world is just, I don't want to say falling apart, but I think this is an interesting time. It's not a good time because the things we're learning a lot of them are so dark. But it's illuminating for those of us that are paying close attention to the world.
Right.
And I don't know. I feel like all that darkness and stuff that you get around the P-Diddy situation, around the stuff Joe Biden was saying, the World Economic Forum, all that stuff. It's good that stuff is coming to light. Let me put it that way. To put a positive spin on something that's pretty dark and disturbing.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like you go to the doctor for, I don't know, let's just call it a sinus infection and find out that you've got a massive tumor.
Well, yeah, right.
Right? So it's like
operable.
Yeah,
that's the
totally
thing.
operable.
It is an operable tumor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like you wake up to this like, oh my goodness, it's crazy.
Oh yeah, yeah. And some of it is the confirmation of stuff we've already heard. So we heard about people have been spreading rumors about P-Diddy for a long time, and so all these alleged offenses, and I will use the word emphatically, alleged offenses. But
don't shut us off yet.
Right, don't shut us off just yet. But this is stuff that people have been saying. A lot of folks were brushed off. You're crazy. You're crazy. I had somebody come up to me. This was years ago, before I was really many years ago, before I was even paying attention to this stuff. And I told them where I was from. I said at the time, Southwest Virginia. This is when I lived on the other side of the street. But you're into those. You think there's those pedophile cults, floating around everywhere. And I was like, wait, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Well, the underground was talking about it, and the people that were, being throttled and pushed aside. And then, lo and behold, Jeffrey Epstein happens. Now P-Diddy happens.
Don't you hate it when
Kevin Spacey?
Don't you
allegedly.
Don't you hate it when the conspiracy is right? I mean,
I never thought of it that way, but I guess.
What's funny is you see time and time again.
Yeah.
It's the conspiracy is right. It's almost kind of disgusting when you think about it. The nefarious players, everything that's happening, you're like, okay, wait a minute. This was planned. This was, just like millions of people were saying all along, right? And I don't care what it is. People talk about, the virus, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It's coming out that those crazy tinfoil hat people were right. In some regards, we were one of them, right? In some things, we're one of them. And then in other things, it's like, my brother-in-law called me the other day and he's like, so how's this for conspiracy theories? A boat hitting a bridge.
Right. Yeah.
And boy, you see them you see them everywhere. The video with the 8 times speed with the angle where the power goes off, ship turns, power comes back on, goes back off. Hard turn.
Yep.
You go, that is weird. And you know what? It is. And my money's on this.
What's that?
Narcolepsy.
Narcolepsy. Okay,
Yeah,
well, I can get
okay.
that. I will say this is what narcolepsy.
Medically induced
Medically induced
narcolepsy.
narcolepsy. All right.
Yeah.
No, so what I was thinking about this, I had a friend when I was in college, and he was training to be one of these captains. And the inside of all these harbors, they have captains that are taken out to the ship, and they're the ones piloting it. So this guy that was from Singapore, who was the captain of this ship, he wasn't the one piloting the ship at that time. Someone else takes command because they understand the waterways, the way the tide changes, how the depths change, where the sand and all the sediment is depositing. So they know that if the boat is drafting, so many feet, then it has to make this turn in this direction. I mean, it is intensive.
It's a science.
It is an absolute science, and these guys study it all the time because it's the ocean, and it's waterways like that are changing all the time. So the fact that that number of errors happened in such perfect order, and this captain, or this the port, I forget what they're called. If it's not a port or a harbor captain, if somebody in the chat wants to chime up on that one, if you happen to know, but yeah, that he made all these sequences of errors that led to it hitting it just dead on right into that pylon and taking down a bridge that blocks one of the largest seaports in the country.
Odd.
Odd
Very
to say
odd,
the least.
isn't it?
I got beef with that. I got beef
I'll
with
tell
it.
you what else too is like, okay, it's a bridge, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if that says that our infrastructure needs a little help in the waterways. I don't know how strong that would have to. I know I saw that movie that Barack came out with, right? Where
Yeah.
the boat goes up on the shore.
Yeah.
Well, that ain't gonna happen.
No.
I mean, you've got a mile out, you're already starting to tank.
But-
Yeah, like,
But here,
so-
that movie started with a boat.
I'm telling. I know. I just saying. I know.
Yeah.
We're not going to say that they're.
We don't have to go that far, but I'm just saying this is foreshadowing and predictive programming.
Yeah.
I think that's a real thing.
I was just
That's a
getting ready to say we derailed, but you don't want to say that because that happens all too often now
Right,
too,
right.
right? So, but yeah, I think medically induced narcolepsy makes a lot of sense. He was trying to take a nap, shut the lights off. Somebody was like, "Hey, wait a minute, turn the lights back on," and he's like, "No, I want them off." It was an argument that ensued in the cabin. Accidentally hit the bridge. It makes perfect sense to me.
Wow. All right. Well, I got.
So does a cyber.
That is it.
So does a cyber attack.
Okay, yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
going to go on the side of human error. And then my wife and I were talking about this. Like, it's all computerized,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Hackable. Entirely hackable.
totally hackable. The steering, everything.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a real quick solution to that. Let's go back to gears.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
then it's the human error,
Right.
and not whatever was steering that ship, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just thankful that it happened, late or early in the morning.
Yeah.
I feel bad for the families that are impacted by
Yeah.
this. It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah. It was one crew. My understanding is it was one crew fixing potholes, and they were on a break. They were taking a break to eat. Man.
Like the timing, was terrible for the crew, but at least they were on break.
Yeah.
And, a lot of them got out of it, survived.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, just crazy. And on that same day, and I love Ben, he sent us a text. He says, "Do you think that this could possibly be in correlation to what's happened?" Like, they're raiding
P-Diddy's house.
allegedly P. Diddy's house.
No, it's actually P-Diddy's house.
Yeah, I'm just
He's-
going to say allegedly before we say P.
keep
Diddy
saying-
on everything.
allegedly.
Right. So
Yeah.
nobody's in trouble. But
Yeah.
so at the same time, they're raiding allegedly P. Diddy's house. This thing happens,
Yeah.
which dominated the news. Very few people knew that was going on until well after the fact.
Right.
So,
I mean, that happens more often than not, whether it's things are done so subversively and with the intent of hiding or covering up or downplaying something, a major disaster, downplaying a guy who some people are saying is allegedly I'm going to get so tired of that word.
It's going to be so fun
It's
tonight,
going to be
isn't it?
boring.
Yeah.
But yeah, a guy who's allegedly like the music industry's version of Jeffrey Epstein, which
Yes.
is what people are saying now.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
But it just kind of follows into suit, right? What was it? The kids network,
Nickelodeon. Yep.
Where they just find out that they had 5 people working for them that were allegedly.
Yep. Had been charged with child molestation, child pornography, and 2 accused pedophiles.
Working. Just, do they not? I know at the churches and stuff, they usually do a background check.
Yeah.
But I guess at Nickelodeon,
Apparently the kids network is an exception.
right, they don't have to do that because,
The videos are coming out now too, and I didn't pull any up for tonight. I mean, they're pretty bad, but the kids shows and what was going on in the kids shows, if you feel like it, go surf the internet, guys, and you can see what I'm talking about. But they're showing the sexual references that are like kind of veiled sexual references in the content that these kids were creating. And they showed some of the stuff from Ariana Grande. Isn't that her name? Ariana Grande?
Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever she was younger and she was on Nickelodeon. And when you see it, you're like, okay, this makes sense that the guy that was running the thing, what was his name?
Weinstein?
No, that was different weirdo.
Yeah, allegedly.
No, he wasn't allegedly. He went to jail.
Yeah.
But no, so Children and Teen Focus Network has been, where was it? Jason molesters who worked on the set included Jason Handy, a production assistant, 11. Okay, where was the guy's name? Y'all help me out. If you're in the chat and you can remember the guy's name. Who was it? The producer. He just got in all the trouble for it. Either way. He's come out and had an apology about it, as if that's going to undo, all the misconduct over the years. But okay, he's apologized. So he admitted to doing this, and it was somewhat inappropriate relationships with people, I believe. But definitely the content and just the environment they were creating was really hostile to young kids.
And see, what's crazy is my kids love, we watch Bunked. We watch at the house. There's a few Nickelodeon programs that we watch. I don't know if Bunked is one, but there's a few that Nick came out with that you're like, oh, this is a good show.
Yeah.
And then you realize what kind of animal is working with these kids.
Yeah.
And now, though, I understand why Alanis Morissette wrote the kind of stuff that she wrote and sang about. And that's probably before your time a little bit.
I know Alanis Morissette.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's an angry Canadian.
I didn't know she was Canadian.
Yeah. Most of them are angry, by the way. But
which is unusual. Every Canadian I've met's been a happy person.
On the outside.
On the outside.
Yeah.
They got a dark side.
They're crying on the inside. But yeah, like her stuff is really dark. A lot of her stuff is dark, right? Her song, Isn't It Ironic? It's like Rain on Your Wedding Day.
Right.
Right? That's dark.
Oh, yeah. I get that.
So, getting off on a whole nother tangent, I think. So we've got this, I'm going to say, epidemic of sexually charged stuff happening to our kids that is coming to light. And yet we've got a White House who, I mean, let's face it, President Jill Biden.
Yeah.
Not Joe, but Jill, because
Dr. Jill Biden, come on.
She is
give credit where credit is due. She is a doctor.
Is comparing this bill in Florida, right, to say, hey, you're not going to have pornographic material in our kids' classrooms.
Yeah.
In the school library. And this is what she's got to say about that.
Teaches us that democracies don't disappear overnight. They disappear slowly, subtly, silently. A book ban, a court decision, a don't say gay law.
Oh,
also
gosh.
in Florida.
Before World War II, I'm
Gay,
told,
gay,
Berlin
gay,
was
gay.
the center of LGBTQ culture in Europe.
Okay, can we pause it for
One-
just a second there?
I'd have a hard time buying that one.
Yeah. So, what did she just say? I've been told that.
Yeah.
Berlin.
Right.
By who?
By somebody in GLAAD, I suppose. I don't
mean,
know.
or
An
just-
LGBTQ.
Just a random like guy on the street came up to
Golly.
you, and I've been told. I don't quote me on this. I mean, but I've been told that Berlin probably wasn't the hub of Gatum in Europe.
Good
You know,
grief.
yeah, they had
Come
their
on.
stuff, but last time I checked, it wasn't smiled upon by Hitler.
Right.
So I don't know where she's getting her I've been told information from, but that's not a good that's not a
Wow.
good look for you.
That's a good way to, although that is, focus on the phrasing. I've been told it's a great way to say it without having to give any historical context or
Absolutely.
any justification
It's
for what you're saying.
genius. It's
All it takes is I've been
Right.
told what? I wasn't saying that was necessarily true. I was just saying
Right.
I was told that.
Right. I've been
So it's-
told that
it's subversive language.
I've been told that her husband is senile.
Right. Now that you can't say.
Alleged-
There goes the live
allegedly.
stream. We're done. No, I'm just kidding.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Senile.
Golly. Yeah, I
So-
think anybody with, 2 brain cells.
But
could
so
tell
here
us that
she
one.
is. I think this is important because here she is talking about this bill and painting it with such a negative brush, right?
Yeah.
That the state of Florida is trying to step in and protect our kids. Ironically, I'll bet you money that Nickelodeon is Nickelodeon filmed in Florida. Wouldn't that be something if they're filmed at Universal?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know where they're filmed.
I don't either, but
I could probably search it.
so Florida is trying to step in and help, and you can think what you want about it, but I don't want my boys, my kids, being subjected to stuff that is not appropriate by my standards.
Right?
Right? I think every parent feels the same way. You don't want your kid to go to school and learn things from somebody else. I mean, if my kids, when they reach the age that we have the talk, I'm going to be the one having the talk with them. Right?
Right.
Well, I'll probably have my wife do it, actually.
Smart move.
Yeah. Go ask your mother. Where do babies come from? Go ask mom.
Go ask them all.
She knows. She did it. I did. So, but I don't want my kids learning from the state.
Yeah.
Certainly not from their friends, which
Yeah.
happens a lot of times, right? But you sit back and go, okay, what she's trying to say is these books that are not appropriate, these books that have topics that my 10-year-old, my 9-year-old, my 8-year-old, my 7-year-old, my whatever age, probably should find out from mom and dad, not
Yeah.
from a picture book. These books shouldn't be banned.
I think that this is a form of grooming by the state. And by that, I mean, if they expose kids to this early, at a time when the parents are not even suspecting that they would be exposed to this stuff, the teachers are showing them, explaining them, and probably cutting this off so that, no, don't talk to your mommy and daddy about this. They don't understand.
Oh, yeah,
I'm the
hello.
teacher. You're with me every day. My job is to teach you and educate you, yada, yada, yada. And so they can start the grooming of that, the sexualization of that, get them thinking about that at an earlier and earlier and earlier age, and they cut you out of the picture. So when you go to have that talk, when you think, you know what, it's probably time to have that talk with my kid, they're like, oh, I know all about that. Oh, and by the way, I've been meaning to tell you, I think I'm non-binary, or I'm pansexual.
By the way.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then as a parent, you can't step in.
right.
I mean, look at what's happening in Canada. Look what's happening.
Oh, man.
Where it's like the parents have lost their rights
Yeah.
altogether. Like,
Yeah, the Canadian, I think he was the education minister. I forget his name, but either way, he came out and said we don't recognize parental rights. Parents have responsibilities, but they don't have rights to their kids.
Yeah.
I mean, they say the quiet part out loud. They don't even. It's not even thinly veiled. They just say, yeah, you don't have rights to your kids because we are the state.
Right.
And in Canada, which is a socialist or communist, very close to it now, they were with speech laws, and they're talking about putting people in prison for life for saying offensive things to LGBTQ people, all that stuff. They don't believe that they truly don't believe a parent has a right to
parent.
Right.
I mean, call it what it is.
It's the responsibility of the state in their
right,
mind.
Right. And I think what's fascinating is when you listen to this, we're wanting what she's not saying, but what I've heard from somebody.
Yeah.
What she's really saying is, we're wanting your kids to see this stuff. We're wanting your kids to be indoctrinated into this. Go ahead and finish. We'll finish playing.
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
if it'll do it.
Group of people loses their rights, and then another, and then another. Until one morning you wake up and you no longer live in a democracy.
Isn't
History
that
teaches-
ironic? Don't you think? It's a little too ironic that
Yeah.
she's talking about losing your rights. Slowly but surely, losing your rights. And you wake up and you're no longer in a democracy. Is that the... I'm sorry, but isn't that the pot calling the kettle?
It is, but this is their MO. You know how they've been doing. Anything that they accuse the conservative side of is what they themselves are doing.
Right.
So when they talk about people losing their rights, they talk about losing our democracy, or when they say that Donald Trump is a threat to our democracy. Aside from saying democracy, knowing that this is a republic, that's just part of the changing of the language. By the way, we are a constitutional representative republic, not a democracy. But they are twisting the language, and they're twisting the narrative to tell people to make people think that what we are doing is not. I'm saying that wrong. They are imposing on us what they themselves are doing.
That's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where, I mean, here's a great example of this is, we want there to be freedom. We want, you don't want to impose on people's rights. They're going to lose their rights, and slowly but surely they're just losing their rights until the democracy is gone, right?
Yeah.
Nobody has a voice. Okay. Look at what they tried to do to the former chair of the Republican National Committee.
Right.
Right? Like, you want to talk about freedom of speech, freedom of... You no longer have a platform if you're a conservative unless you go on Rumble.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, Facebook is even like, if you're watching us on Facebook, great, thanks, love us, share us, because they're not letting us out of the cage.
No, they don't. There's certain things, and YouTube is just as bad,
Right.
You say certain things, or you get a strike, or you have questionable content. The algorithm picks up on all that stuff, and yeah, you're blocked, you're shut down, and they suspend your reach. And so it takes 10 times more. You can watch content out there from people on the left, and it goes and goes and goes, and it's garbage content. But yeah, if you're on the right, they're going to throttle you. Facebook, absolutely.
Right. And so this is a great example, not on the Facebook side, not on the algorithm side, but in real life, real time. The former RNC chair, Ronna McDaniel, is out. Mm-hmm. She was hired by NBC to be not a dissenting voice, but just a voice of the other side, even.
Because she's closer to the Democrats.
Absolutely, she is. That's one of the reasons she's out. Is
Yeah.
because
just because she had an R after her name and was the chair during Donald Trump's tenure.
Right.
They were like, no. So all the commentators are throwing pitching a fit about her being on. Why in the world would you hire her? You can't hire her. They were going on the air saying this. So it shows the influence that those moderators have, or those commentators have, over the platform itself of NBC. That's they should. I got it. They drive the revenue, and not that NBC's revenue is all that great when it comes to MSNBC, which I think is where she was actually going to be.
That's where
appearing.
she was going to be.
Yeah, NBC and MSNBC, but MSNBC was where a lot of that content was coming from, and it's a perfect example of why you shouldn't even tune in to a network like that.
Right.
If they aren't willing,
it's an echo chamber.
Yeah.
They're all in the same think tank.
yeah,
Right? They're all going to repeat the same narrative. They're all going to say the same thing. And if you dissent, then you can't be part of the club. Right? It's the same thing as us dissenting on Facebook. We can't be part of the club. Don't let that algorithm out of the cage, because what they're saying isn't something that we agree with.
yeah,
Right? But now we see it on the human side, and you got to ask yourself: are we this? We are. I mean, it's not ask yourself if we are. We are this far gone that voices that don't agree have to be silenced.
yeah.
this is a dangerous place that we live in now.
Yeah, it really is. And you know, I worry about when the next big event happens, whether it's a, you know, it's a pandemic or it's a
An alleged
yeah.
pandemic.
Alleged pandemic,
Right.
That most definitely did not come from any Chinese lab,
No,
but that just
never.
generate, you know,
Nick,
kind
you know what I
of built
heard?
up out of nothing.
So I heard this. Speaking of, there's a new variant of this of C that apparently attacks the brain, and it turns the eyes white. You lose your eyes turn white.
Yeah. I haven't heard about that, but I did hear about a guy eating a human leg on the by the train tracks in I think it was New York.
I saw that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Human leg.
Yeah. Well, he's probably from Haiti.
Well, the cannibals.
Yeah.
You got me.
Got
I
it.
was like,
Yeah.
I don't understand that reference.
Yeah,
Oh wait, the cannibals are running things.
He
Now I
probably
get it.
came over from there. He probably walked.
He works
walked
for
across,
barbecue. Isn't that the guy's name?
Yeah, walked across the southern border.
Yeah.
And oh man, what a mess.
Yeah.
National Guard troops trampled, right?
Yep.
Right? I mean, by hundreds.
Oh yeah, hundreds of them down at the border.
So what do you do? So okay,
I've got that video in here somewhere.
as a guy in the military, right?
Yeah.
You know, I was telling my wife at some point, tear gas, rubber bullets aren't going to work
Right.
because they're going to just keep coming.
Yeah. So, okay, I will tell you, I've been in a similar scenario to that when I was deployed, and it wasn't. It was unarmed people. At least we assumed that they were. You can't really tell. That was the difficult part of Afghanistan. We were in a very remote part of Afghanistan, and we used to get really good intel off of the kids.
Yeah.
And so we would take backpacks with coloring books and colored pencils and all this kind of stuff. And my boss, he says, pull over here. There's a bunch of kids out here over off the side of the road near this little village. And so he's like, get the backpacks. And so we got the backpacks and we go out and we're handing out these backpacks. Well, these grown men start coming towards us. And then next thing you know, they're grabbing the kids by the hair and pulling colored pencils away from them. This is how barbaric these people were. And they start grabbing the colored pencils. They're beating up the kids to take colored pencils and coloring books. And they had started to push up against us. I mean, it happened like that. And so our recourse was the buttstock of a rifle. And I am going to assume that there were broken ribs involved because we were, I mean, that's crowd control. You got to get them back. You got to get them back and that sort of thing. These guys, my fear on the southern border are the rules of engagement, because that is something that is going to drive how they respond to a situation like that. And we are putting them in a very,
I
very
told my
difficult
wife
situation.
they are in the hardest situation
Yeah.
to be in because they're not going to win no matter what they do.
Right.
I mean, if they're too aggressive, you know, then it's woe is me. Look at us. We're so abusive to people that are less fortunate, right? Even though these people are coming, they're hostile.
Yeah. Well, we saw the Border Patrol, that fake image is really what it was. It was a misinterpreted image saying that the Border Patrol guys were whipping somebody, and it obviously turned out that wasn't the case. But they ran with it. They'll take any
They're
type
gonna
of
take it and run.
Yeah, any visual. This is why photos are one of the worst means of communicating situations like that.
Right.
A photographer is very dangerous because, I do this for a living, taking photos. You can capture people in what look like very, precarious circumstances, and it's an innocuous thing that they're doing.
Right.
But it can look bad, and photographers do that all the time with intent, with malintent. So that's the risk that they have. Something is captured, and nothing to the left and right of it, if it's a video, will be shown. Only that one little compromising situation, and that's going to be used to craft a whole false narrative. If a photographer captures something that maybe looks, in that moment nefarious, but they didn't see what was happening to the left and right of it, they'll take that and run with it. So they're doing us a great service by being down there, and I absolutely applaud Greg Abbott and the National Guard from there in Oklahoma for doing what they're doing. But the fact that you don't have any federal cover for that, and that in fact the federal government is fighting you on whether or not you should even have those people there, I feel for those guys. I really do. Guys and gals, I feel for them.
I do too.
They're in just a horrible situation.
Yeah, they are. And and they can't, like I said, they can't win for trying, you know?
Right.
And here's the thing. You don't think that it's gotten out that, hey, if a bunch of us decide to bum rush them, they're not going to stop us, right?
Right.
So you're going to see this more and more. And eventually the only thing that's going to stop them is probably force.
Yeah. Well,
sadly.
Well, and this is what people don't understand in America is that force is something that it's a cultural thing that people respond to in those parts of the world. In Afghanistan, it was brute force is something they responded to. They don't respond to kind words. They don't respond to conversation. They respond to
Which is what we
brute
try
force.
to do as Americans, right? We try to do the kind thing. We try to do
Always.
the just thing.
Yep.
And there are societies and civilizations that are not. They're just
No,
not.
they're not
think
geared for that.
They look at that as weakness.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
And so some of these people, and remember, you want to think like, oh, these are all Hispanics that are coming over. No, they're not anymore.
No, they're coming from, the Horn of Africa, North Africa. They're coming from the Middle East.
They're coming from areas where force matters.
Right.
And so, yeah, I really feel for those guys.
Yeah,
I really do.
Well, and it's not women and children. When that video, and I can't find it right now, but
Yeah.
people have probably seen it. It's out there on the internet.
It's not women and children.
No, it's all military age males, and this is a legit conflict. This is an invasion. There's no denying the fact that it is an invasion.
Yeah.
And even the president of Mexico, what's his name? Either way, he said the other day that he's not going to assist us in stopping the border problem until we give him $20 billion and alleviate the sanctions and I don't think they were embargoes, but whatever they were, the trade agreement until it is modified,
Right.
and we give him $20 billion, he's not going to do anything to stop the flow of migrants. And he knows that we have a commander or president at the moment who's just going to roll over for that because
Right.
his party wants this to happen. This is part of a plan.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's part of a plan.
Yep. And we talked about it. I think it was last week. Redistricting.
It's all about the redistricting. It's all about bringing, and the thing is they've done a masterful job of painting this as compassion.
Oh yeah.
They've done it. They've done such a brilliant job of saying, we're the party that cares. We're the party, right? Meanwhile, they don't care actually at all about them. Mm-mm. They just want their vote count.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
And so, yeah, pull that headline back up. This is not great. This is disgusting.
Yeah. Sorry, I know that wasn't one of the topics we had talked
No,
about,
it
but
wasn't,
you said
but
it, and I was like, that's a perfect segue.
I saw that the other day, and I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
They're going to hand out prepaid weekly debit cards to 460 illegal immigrants.
Yep. It says the city hall spokesperson said the family with two parents and kids under the age of 5 will receive around $350 per week.
For what?
For food, for their grocery bill. Now they're saying that this is a cheaper option than boxing the food and taking it to them and the logistics behind it. But here's the problem. We should not be feeding them to begin with. They should not be here to begin with.
I mean, and here's the other half. Okay, here's an easier suggestion. Why don't you just have a buffet at the Roosevelt Hotel?
There you go.
They're not paying for that,
Good call.
right?
Yeah.
Just open up the trough at the hotel. Be much easier to bring in a bunch of cans of yams, and just keep it simple because, as a former New Yorker, right? I look
Right.
at this and go, that ain't right,
Yeah.
right? How many people are displaced because of this?
Oh, well, not just that, but the amount that they're spending on homeless veterans and people like other homeless inside of New York, the illegal immigrants are getting far more. Average. I think the average right now is around $5,000 a month that they're spending per migrant.
Good cow.
$5,000 a month. Some more in New York. It's more. They did the math when we first talked about this. The ones that had taken over the hotel and
Yeah.
all the backstory on that one, but it was. They had Mayor Adams was complaining about the 24,000 that had come there, and I think they were averaging like $20,000 each. And when you start doing the math, it is a small amount technically for New York,
right?
But when you look at how they're allocating funds for their actual citizens,
It's awful.
yeah,
It's awful. And here's what else drives me a little nuts is that they're spending a lot of money per migrant.
yeah,
more than I don't. I mean, really,
Yeah.
like more than necessary.
And I'll tell you, I'm going to do something for our next episode. If you want to talk about this in the next one,
Please.
But I started doing some research. There's people that I follow, people that I know personally, that were, I guess, really propping up some of the nonprofits that are doing work down on the border. And they were selling the whole thing. Oh, this is compassion. This isn't political. This is about, being good. This is about being compassionate and being sympathetic to the widows and the orphans and yada, 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 yada. And so I started looking at the nonprofits. And the good thing about a 501c3 or a 501c2 or whatever it is, I forget what they are.
You can see it all.
Yeah. It's all available online.
Right. It's all there.
So I spent like 3 hours following money trails.
I'm going to tell you, you are not the person to be on the wrong side of.
No, I will research it into oblivion, and I'd have to dig up the notes now because I wasn't planning on talking about it tonight. But you see a nonprofit funded by a nonprofit who is getting 3/4 of their budget straight from the federal government.
Yep.
And so the federal government gives it to a nonprofit divvies it out to nonprofits, and those nonprofits divvy it out to those folks. And it's this whole infrastructure of nonprofits, a lot of them Christian nonprofits, by the way, who are using compassionate, caring, loving people to traffic human beings into the country. And some of them are doing it unknowingly. The people that run the nonprofits are doing it knowingly.
Right.
And I made this point I was going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it this weekend on my the Continue Freedom podcast. But I'm to the point now where I'm fed up with the Border Patrol agents that are actively doing this. If they are calling a number that is written on the wrist of a child and saying, well, somebody answered, and Border Patrol agents and people are attesting to the fact that this is happening, and they send these kids, put them on buses, send them into the hinterlands, into the middle of the country. That's how these children are being trafficked. And you are not bound to do anything that is immoral, unethical, or illegal. And that is all three. Mm-hmm. So you have, at some point, as an agent, you have to start saying, I'm not doing this.
We know that this is a big problem.
Yeah.
We know that this is probably the biggest problem. And for those people out there that are like, let them come, let the borders, we don't need, we should let everybody come into the United States. We should just let them all in. This is why we can't.
Right. These children are vulnerable kids.
Yes, and they're coming here and they are getting signed over to people that nobody knows who these people are. No. They're not family. They're not family.
No.
So, yeah, at any rate, it is a hot mess, and it just keeps getting messier.
Yeah.
And messier and messier.
Yeah.
And for the National Guard guys down there and stuff, we really feel for you. And I just praying,
God bless you for
praying
doing what
for
you're
you,
doing.
wishing you the best. It is not easy. It is not going to be easy. It's only going to get harder. And but there is something I do want to touch on, as it is Holy Week.
Yeah.
And, we talked last week a little bit about Hamas. The October 7th attack was rooted around red cows, right? Because the higher echelon of Hamas realized that Israel, Israel was going to sacrifice these red heifers to cleanse the instruments for the temple. Hadn't been done in 2,000 years, right? Mm-hmm. And they're going to do it, and they can't have that. And, here's why this is important, because, and this is from the Jordan News, the Jordan is in the country of Jordan, okay? In Tel Aviv, the Temple Institute was holding a conference today to discuss the performing of the ritual sacrifice. This is ongoing. They've got the altar built. And if this happens, it would effectively open the way to multiplying the dangerous surrounding Al-Aqsa and increasing the number of intruders and participants in imposing rituals therein. This is a problem for them. This is a problem the Jewish Jerusalem Foundation International in Lebanon on yesterday, explained that the extremist temple groups rely on establishing the purification ritual with the red heifer to enable hundreds of thousands of religious Jews to enter the Al-Aqsa Mosque, who currently refrain from doing so out of adherence to the official rabbinic prohibition. When Israel became a nation, after Israel captured the site in 1967, the chief rabbinate of Israel announced that entering the Temple Mount was forbidden to Jews. So if you are an Orthodox Jew, the rabbis have forbidden you from going up to the Temple Mount because it's impure. Until they sacrifice and purify it, it's not pure. You shouldn't go there. Well, if they get these sacrificed, it opens the floodgates for all of the Jews who adhere to the rabbinic request or prohibition. It opens the gates for them to hundreds of thousands to finally go to the Temple Mount. Can you imagine the conflict that is going to arise?
No.
So October 7th happens because they're planning to do this. And I believe they're planning to do it like the 10th of April.
Yeah. I heard weekend, Easter weekend, right? I mean, it was
It's
Passover. Passover.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they wanted it done by Passover. So they're planning on doing it on April 10th, the day of Eid al-Fitr.
Eid al-Fitr?
Yeah,
Fitr?
sure.
Fodder, I
Sure.
believe. Yeah. I used to know how that was
So
pronounced. I don't know anymore.
this is a plan. They're going to do it. I mean, they're having volunteer priests that are being trained for the ritual. They're gonna sacrifice opposite on the Mount of Olives, opposite the mosque, so they
Right.
can see it all.
Yeah.
And then hundreds of thousands of Jews are going to be able to go where they've never been able to go before. Mm-hmm. I mean, since Israel became a nation, they've never been able to go there.
Right.
Since the mosque was built, they've never been able to go there.
And some have not been able to go now just because of the conflict with the Muslims who won't allow them to
They
go
won't allow
on
them.
their whole
Right, but once that happens, the floodgates open. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to bring all that up because I think this is kind of an important thing to say. You know, it's almost like the stars aligning, the coincidence, like we've got this blackout that's going to be happening, right? Mm-hmm. And I've seen all kinds of videos where it goes over, the cities called Salem, which is
Salems,
Jerusalem.
yeah.
The other one went through the cities called Nineveh in America, and they cross.
There's supposed to be like 8 cities named Salem that it's going to cross over.
Right, which is short for Jerusalem.
Right.
It's, just all of these things coinciding with this time frame. And on top of all of that, allegedly P-Diddy.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. So many things are being unearthed right now and brought to light, like we were talking about.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that. This is the day is near, and this is out of I think it was out of Romans, and I actually pulled this one up. As I was researching, I'm going to read this one.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so the day is near, and it says, "And do this, understanding the present time. The hour has already come for you to wake up from your slumber, because our salvation is nearer now than when we first believed. The night is nearly over; the day is almost here. So let us put aside the deeds and darkness, and put on the armor of light. Let us behave decently, as in the daytime, not in carousing and drunkenness, not in sexual immorality and debauchery, not in dissension and jealousy. Rather, clothe yourself with the Lord Jesus Christ, and do not think about how to gratify the desires of the flesh." And when we were talking about all the pedophilia and the books and the
desires of the
the
flesh.
desires of the flesh, all these desires of the flesh, and like you're saying, as we're coming towards that, what seems like that moment, and again, we don't know for sure, but some pretty wild things. The 10th sacrifice of a red heifer, and the last one was in 70, I believe. Wasn't that right? The last time, the ninth one, AD,
Yeah,
70
don't-
AD, not
'cause some people-
1970.
1970?
70
That's
AD.
Right.
And I mean, it's pretty significant. But even if, let's just take the eschatology side of it out of it.
Sure.
Even if we are in such a time that this stuff is becoming commonplace in our society, these are people trying to control our children. The pedophilia, the child trafficking, just the evils that are just welling up. We're constantly hearing about it. It's always been there. It's a moment of awareness for those of us that believe in God, those of us who, if you don't believe in God, but at least you believe in the Constitution at this point, God needs to be on your checklist. But if you are wanting, this is a time to not be, drunk and debaucherous and sexually immoral and all that. This is a time to start collecting, reining in all those bad habits that you might have and say, you know what, I need to be strong for the coming conflict because the conflict is coming. And I've got to be who, if not me, who, right?
Well, and that's a great question. In Ezekiel chapter 33, it talks about the watchman. Mm-hmm. It talks about the watchman on the wall. And,
Yep.
And it says this statement, which really grinds me. Okay, it says that the watchman doesn't sound the alarm, then the watchman's responsible.
Right.
For what happens.
It's true. It's true.
Which is true throughout history, right? If you're standing watch, if you're watching over your family and you don't sound the alarm, if you're, whatever it is, my kid's got a bald tire, I got to be like, hey, you're not driving that, right?
Right,
I mean, whatever
right.
it is. But in this capacity, and I'm just going to make this statement. What we see happening in the physical realm and what we call in what we call in the church, the natural realm, right? What we see on earth happening is a portion of a mirror reflection of what's happening in the spirit. And so when you consider the turmoil and the upheaval that we're seeing all over the earth, right? It is a fraction of what's happening in the spirit realm between Christ, between God and the enemy. It's just a fraction of what's happening there. The war that's happening right now in heaven, in the unseen, is much, much, much greater than what we're feeling the ripple effect. We talk about child pedophiles and all the different things, and the desire to accept that as an alternative lifestyle. Even you've heard this whole nonsense that it's just what do they call it, like minor preferences or what? Like
minor attracted persons.
Yeah, minor attracted persons. They have a name for it that isn't degrading. They have a name for it that isn't. I don't even want to say shameful because that's a horrible. We don't want shame.
Yeah.
It's a sickness.
Yeah.
And these people need help.
Oh yeah.
They need a lot of help. But instead of saying this is a sickness, you need help, just like we've done with other things that are a sickness and people need help, we're trying to reinforce them and make them feel better about themselves when what we need to be doing is like, you need help.
Yeah.
Right?
What's good will become evil. What's evil will become good.
Right. And we are supposed to accept this.
Yeah.
We're supposed to accept the books in school. We're supposed to accept what P-Diddy allegedly has done. We're supposed to accept what Jeffrey Epstein has done. And now it's, he didn't do anything. He was working for the CIA and he was, trying to bring people in. I've read an article about that a couple weeks ago. I'm like, if I was working for the CIA doing something like that, I could not live with myself.
Yeah.
Maybe he did kill himself because he was like, this is so wrong.
This is so wrong. I don't know.
You can't toe the line on evil and
Yeah.
good. You're either in or you're out.
Yeah.
You're either evil or you're not.
Yeah.
And so, at any rate, all that being said, watchmen need to sound the alarm. So here it is. Wake up, America. Wake up. What you have seen, what you are going to see, we have just started crossing the threshold of an unraveling of cataclysmic proportions in our natural world.
Yep.
And it's only going to get worse. And here's a great example. Go on Netflix tonight. Look up, just go on Netflix and look at the stuff that is most popular.
Right.
Right? Aliens, AI, all things setting us up for the great lie, for the great reset, it's all stuff that has been programmed, forced down our throat to set us up to believe a lie, to believe something. And this is why I believe Jesus says, do not be deceived.
Right.
Wake up, sound the alarm. This season especially, we serve a risen Savior, a resurrected Savior. I saw it the other day. Oh, this wears me out.
What was it?
First of all, church people can be the dumbest. It's like the bumper sticker, you
Right.
know? Like, I love Jesus. I can't stand his followers, right? Like, but so one of the biggest churches in America decided that they were going to they weren't going to use the word resurrection
Oh, no.
because it can be kind of offensive or not understood by a non-believer, right? Not going to use the word risen. And it's like, that's the whole point of this.
Yeah. Yeah. That you're missing the plot at that point.
Right. That is the whole point. Muhammad's dead. Muhammad is dead.
Yeah.
Not coming back. He's dead. Mm-hmm. Buddha, dead. Mm-hmm. Every other god is dead. There's one that isn't.
Yeah.
And when people go, well, you don't know that for sure. No, actually, historically, you do.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Historically, you get it. Historically, you know. There's only one who has been risen from the dead, and his promise was that he would raise from the dead and that he would return. And I'll tell you what, anybody that keeps his promise about coming back to life after 3 days, I'm going to believe him they're going to come back.
Yeah.
You know what there isn't a promise that he's failed on.
Yeah.
So why would he start now? And
Was it Furtick's church?
yeah, I allegedly.
That was in the comments from Ben.
Yeah, allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly,
Wow.
Stephen Furtick's church. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
I don't mind calling them out if they're,
And there's a part of me that goes, and Ben, I get it,
yeah.
right? There's a part of me that goes, all right, to the normal millennial who's trying to get out of their parents' basement and they see a flyer from a cool church that says Resurrection Sunday or He has risen. They're gonna be, oh, whatever, you know. We want to be cooler than that. We want to be hip. We want to be. So let's not use any of those terms. I'm sorry. I think the first church that comes out with, a shirt that's like hashtag we say he's risen or hashtag we say resurrection, that's going to be the church I'm going to.
Right.
Yeah. Like I'm not going to go to the one that won't say it because they don't want to drive anybody off.
Yeah.
Sorry to say it, but yeah. So the Watchmen, we need to sound the alarm.
Yeah.
We got boats flying into bridges or driving into bridges because of medically induced narcolepsy and cyber attacks. We've got a nation consumed with pedophilia,
Yeah.
of trying to justify wrong and make it right. What do you call this? The end times?
It's an excessive amount of evil. I mean, we've got historical references to it in, Rome. People, if you want to talk about the Roman Empire, but, Rome, Sodom and Gomorrah, obviously, if you want to go to biblical reference. I mean, this has happened with successful nations. And excess, there's a kind of a sequence of events where, you've heard tough times make hard men make peaceful times make weak men,
Mm-hmm.
right? And weak men make weak countries, and so that make hard times, and then the cycle repeats itself, and that's where we are right now. I think I just butchered that, by the way, but you know what I mean. I think everybody gets the idea.
It was allegedly supposed to be close, but it wasn't. So,
It wasn't. I was off. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
As Nietzsche said, stop.
Just stop.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're in that cycle now where we've had very easy times. We've created very soft men, and now it's creating hard times once again.
Agreed.
And,
I totally agree with you. And I think for the people of faith, especially,
yeah.
we have been so incredibly quiet. We've been so docile. We've been so, you know, we've been almost to a point of silence. And you have message after message in churches about the love of Jesus, about how much Jesus loves you and how much Jesus this and how. And I'm sorry, but when I read the Word of God, yes, Jesus loves us. Yes, God loves us. But holiness demands sacrifice.
Yeah.
And for us to be the people of God, Jesus was not nice. Everybody wants to paint him as this nice guy. He was flipping tables over. Anytime he confronted evil, he called it out by name.
Right.
He was not afraid. He was very confrontational. He was very confrontational. And to the religious, especially, he was confrontational. And I'll tell you, in this area, especially in the Bible Belt here, we've got a lot of religious people who have no idea who Christ is.
Right.
And it's sad because they think, they've been so deceived that they think
Yeah.
that, oh, it's, you know, I'm good. I go to church on Sunday, and sometimes I go fishing, but, you know, it's like, no. He wants a relationship with you, an intimate relationship. He wants you to talk to him every day, and he wants you to be able to listen to him and follow him.
Right.
And sometimes that's painful.
Yeah. Well, and we're his, you know, he uses us as tools to do what, you know,
Absolutely.
and that you're not going to get much accomplished if you are, you know, if you're not active, if you're not doing something, right, doing your part, whatever that part may be. It may be just inside of your family. It may be something greater. It may be something bigger. But if we just sit idly by, how is God going to use us as a tool if we don't put ourselves out there in some way?
Right. And there's plenty of people in the tool shed.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
There's plenty of people in the tool shed, but I've got an old saw sitting in there in my tool shed
Yeah.
that I don't use.
Yeah, it's rusted and dull.
Right.
Right.
And that's the bulk of Christianity is they're these rusty old saws. You know what? When I first gave my heart to Christ, I was on fire. I loved him. But, you know, through time and circumstances, and God let me down. Oh, you know, I got sick, or I lost this or this job. One person was, you know, well, I prayed and God told me I should invest all this money. And then what I invested in went belly up. And I'm like, Well, I mean, why would God tell me to do that? Why would I feel that way? I'm like, well, I don't know. Maybe because if you were rich, you'd cheat on your wife. Do you know what I'm? I mean, it was a quick answer, but it's like, it shocked him, but it's truth.
Right.
Like, you don't know the mind of God. You don't know your future. He does.
Yeah.
He knows it. He orchestrates it if you put your faith and trust in him. He's promised that he'll watch you through this. But he still gives us freedom of choice.
He does. Yeah.
And so, yeah, at any rate, I like all that. Watchmen, sound the alarm. And if you're listening and you're uncertain of the times, like so many other people are. Right?
Oh, so many. Many.
I want to tell you this season, especially, he is risen. And Jesus said that I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father or to God. No man goes to heaven except through me. You ain't going to get there through any other God. And there's so many people, even in the church, all religions point to God. They say, oh, you know, all religions are the same. They're basically the same. There's one big problem with that statement. Jesus says otherwise.
Yeah.
He says, no man comes to the Father except through me. Mm-hmm. And if you're believing that all religions lead to one, you're deceived.
Yeah.
And you need to stop it. And you need to listen to the words of Christ where he says, I am. He came, he died, and this week we celebrate his resurrection. And the Jews celebrate by sacrificing a red heifer, which is going to change forever the landscape. Lord, help us.
It's significant.
And nobody's talking about it.
Yeah, that's what's shocking to me. There aren't more people discussing it.
Nobody's
It came out
talking about
initially when they said they had found them, but then it kind of fell off the radar.
And now we're getting the reports from newspapers in Jordan, right? I mean, like, you're getting reports from overseas.
Yeah.
This is what they're planning. If this happens on April 10th, hold on to your hats, my friend. If they get this done on April 10th, it is going to change forever the spiritual landscape of the globe.
Yeah,
And that's heavy.
it is heavy. Wow.
Yeah. We'll have a lot to talk about next week,
We'll have a lot to talk about.
right?
I'll be
In
interested
the
to
next
see.
coming
Yeah,
weeks.
yeah.
Because you might have heard it here first, guys. But you'll hear more and more about it in the news if they're really going to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's going to change so much. The plan is the 10th of April. And if they do it the 10th of April, it is going to turn the Muslim world upside down. Mm-hmm. It is going to cause increased tensions like we cannot imagine against Israel, just like it says is going to happen in the end. Great time to be alive.
Yes, indeed.
Listen, if you're out there, share with your friends, please, that we exist. Comment. You can email us at thebraverthantherest@gmail.com. Again, thebraverthantherest@gmail.com. We would love to have our own website, but we just can't afford it. So if you want to donate a website, that'd be awesome. So we could have
Heck yeah.
The Braver Than the Rest at thebraverthantherest.com.
There you go.
Right? That'd
Yep.
be great. But until next week, we love you. Keep your eyes to the skies.